Most people have no idea what's happening right now, a silent danger unfolding in the background that almost nobody is paying attention to. But if you look closely, you'll see the signs everywhere. Foods that were once cheap, stable, and always available are quietly disappearing. And several of them will be gone before month, year. Long before the general public even realizes what's happening, I'm going to show you exactly which items are at risk and why. I've been tracking supply data, storage failures, product changes behind the scenes, and what I've found is something most grocery shoppers never hear about. In fact, one item on this list, number Y, will shock you, because it's something almost every household depends on without questioning its stability. Stay with me, because once you understand why this is happening, you'll never look at your pantry the same way again, and you'll know exactly what to do before the shelves empty. Number 1, white rice. In a collapsing economy, when every dollar shrinks and shelves empty faster than officials admit, white rice becomes one of the most powerful long-term survival foods you can put away. Its longevity isn't an accident. The bran and germ are removed, eliminating the oils that normally make grains spoil, turning white rice into a food that can last 30 years or more when sealed correctly. In a crisis, you need calories, stability, and something that brings predictable energy with minimal fuel. White rice gives you all three. It cooks with little water, fills your stomach, and pairs with almost anything, turning scraps into meals. Stored in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, kept dry and hidden from pests, it becomes a silent insurance policy sitting in your home. In moments of inflation, food shortages, or extended supply chain failure, this single staple can keep your family fed. Start stocking at least one 25 to 50 pounds bag right now before prices climb again. Number 2, dried beans and legumes. If rice is the backbone of crisis food storage, dried beans and legumes are the muscle, the source of real strength when protein becomes unaffordable or simply unavailable. In an economic collapse, you cannot rely on fresh meat, refrigerated items, or daily grocery runs. Beans solve that problem, whether it's pinto, black, kidney, chickpeas, or lentils. These foods can last 25 to 30 years when packed in mylar with oxygen absorbers, giving you long-term stability that almost no modern food offers. Yes, they become harder with age, but even 20-year-old beans will soften with a long soak or extended simmer, staying completely safe, nutritious, and filling. Together with rice, they form a complete amino acid profile, meaning real protein without needing meat. In a crisis where supplies tighten and inflation hits protein hardest, this combo becomes priceless. Store multiple varieties now, label each bag, and stack them where you can reach them fast. Start building your rice and beans foundation today, before shortages make it harder. Number 3, dried pasta in an economic collapse, when fuel, electricity, and grocery availability become unpredictable. Dried pasta turns into one of the most dependable and practical foods you can stockpile. Its long shelf life comes from being almost completely moisture-free, meaning bacteria and mold have nothing to feed on. Even sitting in its store packaging, pasta stays good for years. But sealed in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, it can last 30 years or more, giving you a reliable source of calories when fresh food disappears. In crisis conditions, you need meals that are fast, easy, and comforting, and pasta delivers exactly that. A small amount of boiling water turns it into a filling dish, and when paired with canned sauces, powdered cheese, or even stored spices, it becomes a morale-boosting meal during dark times. Pasta is cheap right now, but during inflation spikes, even basic staples vanish or triple in cost. Stock up before that happens. Buy in bulk, seal it properly, and secure your future one bag at a time. Number 4, pemmican. When the grid fails, refrigeration stops, and meat becomes a luxury most people can no longer afford. Pemmican becomes one of the most valuable survival foods ever created. Originally made by Native American tribes and later used by explorers and soldiers, pemmican is a blend of dried lean meat, rendered fat tallow, and sometimes berries, forming a calorie-dense food that can last 50 years or more when stored properly. Its secret is the pure saturated fat, which seals out oxygen and moisture to things that normally destroy meat. In a true economic breakdown, protein will be the first resource to disappear from stores, forcing millions into nutrient-deficient diets. But a supply of pemmican gives you portable, shelf-stable protein and fat, two essentials for survival when food scarcity hits. It can be eaten straight, used in stews, or rationed in small pieces during emergencies. If you've never tried it, now's the time. Buy pre-made pemmican or learn to craft your own and store several jars before shortages worsen. Number 5. Hardtack in a severe economic collapse, when bread becomes unaffordable or ingredients run out. Hardtack becomes one of the simplest, longest-lasting emergency foods you can rely on. Made from just flour, water, and optional salt, it contains no oils, no sugar, and no moisture, meaning it can last decades, even over a century, without spoiling. Soldiers in the Civil War carried it, explorers survived on it, and today it remains a nearly indestructible survival staple. Hardtack may not win any taste awards there. It's a reason it was nicknamed tooth dullers and iron crackers. But in a crisis, survival trumps comfort. When soaked in coffee, broth, or soup, it becomes surprisingly filling, giving you essential carbohydrates when normal food disappears. During long-term shortages, you need items you can store cheaply, make at home, and forget about until you desperately need them. Hardtack checks all 3 boxes. Make a batch now, store it in airtight containers, and add an emergency carbohydrate source that can literally outlast modern civilization. Number 6. Raw honey during an economic collapse, when medicine, sweeteners, and comfort foods become scarce. Raw honey becomes one of the most valuable multi-purpose items you can store. Number 7. Pure maple syrup in an economic collapse. When processed foods vanish and sugar prices skyrocket, pure maple syrup becomes a powerful long-term sweetener that never truly expires when stored correctly. Its extremely high sugar concentration creates an environment where bacteria simply can't survive, allowing an unopened bottle to last indefinitely in your pantry. This makes it far more valuable than cheap pancake syrups, which are often corn syrup mixtures that spoil faster and offer no real nutritional benefits. Pure maple syrup carries essential minerals, natural antioxidants, and most importantly, a reliable source of calories when your body needs quick energy. Even in a crisis, morale matters, and maple syrup can transform bland survival meals like oatmeal, rice, or pancakes made from stored flour. Once opened, the only requirement is refrigeration to prevent mold, but unopened bottles can sit untouched for years. With inflation and supply chain instability increasing, grabbing a few bottles of real, pure maple syrup now ensures you have a sweet, stable resource when shortages hit. Number 8. Molasses during long-term crisis conditions. When sugar becomes expensive or hard to find, molasses emerges as one of the most underrated yet powerful sweeteners to store. Thick, dark, and mineral-rich, molasses contains iron, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. Offering more than just sweetness, it provides genuine nutritional value when fresh produce becomes scarce. Its naturally high sugar density makes molasses extremely shelf-stable, lasting indefinitely when unopened and for years, even after opening, as long as the lid stays tightly sealed. It may thicken or crystallize over time, but that isn't spoilage. It can be warmed gently to return it to normal consistency. Beyond survival meals, molasses is essential for baking. Sauces, breads, and emergency energy, giving you options when variety disappears. In an economic collapse, the ability to turn simple flour, oats, or rice into something flavorful becomes a psychological advantage. Stock 1 or 2 jars now, store them in a cool, dry place, and secure a sweet, nutrient-dense staple that can outlast the crisis. Number 9. Salt in an economic collapse, when food preservation becomes a necessity instead of a hobby. Salt transforms from a simple seasoning into one of the most powerful survival tools you can store. Salt doesn't just last a long time, it never expires. It is a mineral that has already existed for millions of years, and it will stay stable for millions more. In a world where supply chains collapse and refrigeration becomes unreliable, salt becomes essential for preserving meat, fermenting vegetables, curing foods, cleaning, and even basic hygiene. Nothing grows in salt because it pulls moisture out of bacteria, making it a natural pathogen killer and preservation agent. But not all salt is ideal for long-term prep. Focus on sea salt, kosher salt, or Himalayan salt, not iodized varieties, which can degrade over time. Even if it clumps from humidity, it remains completely usable. Salt is cheap now, but during a collapse, shortages can appear overnight. Stock multiple pounds today and treat salt like the survival asset it truly is. Number 10. Sugar. In a deepening economic crisis, when food becomes scarce and energy sources matter more than ever, sugar becomes far more than a sweetener. It becomes a compact, long-lasting source of quick calories with an infinite shelf life. White sugar, powdered sugar, and even brown sugar can last indefinitely as long as they're kept dry and sealed. Sugar doesn't support microbial growth because bacteria simply cannot survive in such a low moisture. High-density environment that makes sugar one of the safest and most stable emergency foods you can store. Yes, it can clump or harden, especially brown sugar, but that's not spoilage. A little heat or moisture softens it instantly. Sugar is also crucial for baking, preserving fruits, fermenting, morale boosting, and making high-calorie drinks when you need quick energy. But here's the warning most people miss. Never store sugar with oxygen absorbers, or it will turn into a brick. In a collapsing economy, sugar prices and availability can change overnight. Buy several bags now and seal them properly before the next wave of shortages. Number 11. Distilled white vinegar in an economic collapse. When cleaning supplies, food preservatives, and basic medical items become scarce, distilled white vinegar becomes one of the most valuable multi-purpose essentials you can store. Vinegar doesn't rely on preservatives or refrigeration. Its high acidity naturally destroys bacteria. It's giving it an almost indefinite shelf life. Even if it becomes cloudy or forms sediment, that's not spoilage. It's simply a natural chemical shift that changes nothing about its safety or usefulness. Vinegar gives you multiple survival advantages. It can disinfect surfaces, clean wounds in emergencies, sanitize dishes, neutralize odors, and preserve vegetables like cucumbers, onions, or peppers when refrigeration fails. It also becomes a powerful ingredient for cooking during shortages, allowing you to add flavor and acidity to otherwise bland staples like rice, beans, and canned foods. When manufactured household cleaners disappear from shelves, which they do every time a crisis hits, vinegar becomes a priceless alternative. Store several gallons now, keep them sealed, and ensure you never run out of one of the most versatile survival tools available. Number 12. Instant coffee in a collapsing economy, when stress rises and energy drops. Instant coffee becomes more than a convenience. It becomes a psychological lifeline and a long-term survival staple. Freeze-dried coffee crystals last 30 years or more when sealed properly because nearly all moisture has been removed, preventing mold, bacteria, and spoilage. Even left unopened in its original jar, instant coffee remains usable for years. It's making it one of the simplest morale-boosting items you can store. In a crisis, waking up tired, hungry, and mentally drained can break your rhythm, but a single cup of hot coffee restores focus, warmth, and clarity. Unlike whole beans or ground coffee, instant coffee requires no grinder, no equipment, and almost no fuel, just hot water. Flavor may fade over time, but safety does not. In a long-term emergency, caffeine can become a powerful asset for alertness, especially when you're protecting your home or managing scarce resources. Stock several jars now and secure both energy and morale for the hard days ahead. Number 13. Cocoa powder in a prolonged economic collapse. When comfort foods disappear and stress levels skyrocket, pure unsweetened cocoa powder becomes one of the smartest morale and nutrition boosters you can store. What gives cocoa its incredible shelf life is its naturally low moisture and fat content, which prevents bacteria and mold from surviving. Unlike hot chocolate mixes, loaded with milk solids and sugars that spoil quickly, 100% pure cocoa can last indefinitely when sealed in an airtight container. In dark times, morale matters, and cocoa gives you the ability to create warm drinks, baked goods, or even simple chocolate mixtures when paired with stored sugar. When food monotony drains your motivation, a single cup of hot cocoa can restore calm, warmth, and emotional stability. It's also packed with antioxidants, making it more than just a luxury. In a survival pantry filled with bland staples, cocoa becomes a psychological weapon against despair. Buy 1 or 2 containers of pure cocoa powder today and store them airtight for long-term use. Number 14. Ghee. When an economic crisis cuts access to fresh dairy and refrigeration becomes unreliable, ghee quickly becomes one of the most valuable fats you can store for long-term survival. Ghee is simply clarified butter. All water and milk solids are removed, leaving behind pure, shelf-stable butterfat that can last for years or even decades without the need for refrigeration. This makes it priceless in a collapse where cooking oils run out quickly and butter becomes impossible to store. Ghee has a naturally high smoke point, meaning you can cook almost anything with it. It's from rice and beans to potatoes and bread dough, adding rich flavor to otherwise simple foods. It tastes nutty, warm, and intensely satisfying, which is a huge morale boost during stressful times. Cultures in India have stored ghee at room temperature for centuries, even aging it for added value. In a future where fats become scarce and expensive, stocking several jars of ghee today gives you both flavor and survival fuel tomorrow. Number 15. White flour during an economic collapse. When bread, tortillas, and baked goods become luxuries instead of daily staples, white flour becomes one of the most important long-term ingredients you can store. Unlike whole wheat flour, which contains natural oils that spoil quickly, white flour has the bran and germ removed, giving it a much longer shelf life when sealed properly. Stored in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, white flour can last 10 to 25 years, making it a reliable backbone for survival cooking. Flour lets you make bread, biscuits, flatbreads, noodles, dumplings, and thickened soups, even when supermarkets fail. But the biggest mistake people make is leaving flour in its original packaging. Those thin paper bags attract pests and allow moisture in. In a crisis, carbs equal energy, and flour gives you the ability to create filling meals from almost nothing. Buy large bags while they're cheap, seal them airtight, label the dates, and ensure you can still bake, trade, or feed your family when store shelves go empty. Number 16. Powdered non-fat milk. In a deepening crisis where dairy becomes rare, expensive, or completely unavailable, powdered non-fat milk becomes an essential long-term survival food. The key is the non-fat part, removing the milk. Natural fats eliminates the elements that normally cause dairy to spoil, allowing powdered milk to last 15 to 20 years when stored correctly in mylar with oxygen absorbers. While the taste may never match fresh milk, it remains fully functional for drinking, baking, cereals, sauces, bread, and emergency nutrition. In a collapse, calcium and protein deficiencies become common, especially for children and elderly family members who need steady nutrients. Powdered milk solves that problem cheaply and effectively. You can improve the flavor by adding a little sugar, cocoa, or vanilla, all items that also store well long-term. In a world without refrigeration, this powder becomes your only reliable dairy substitute. Stock several sealed bags now, rotate occasionally. Secure a food that keeps your household nourished when fresh milk disappears. Number 17. Oats in an economic collapse. When breakfast foods become scarce and grocery prices explode, oats become one of the most reliable long-term staples you can store. Rolled oats and steel-cut oats contain small amounts of natural oils, but when packed correctly in mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, they can last 20 to 30 years, making them a decades-long food security investment. Oats are incredibly versatile. You can turn them into hot oatmeal, grind them into flour, make simple breads, bake survival cookies, or stretch soups and stews. They are filling, high in fiber, and provide slow-releasing energy, something you desperately need in a crisis when meals become limited and work becomes harder. Oats are also cheap today, but in times of inflation, grain prices spike quickly and violently. Stocking bulk oats now ensures you have a dependable, morale-boosting breakfast, even when everything else runs low. Buy several large bags, seal them for long-term storage, and guarantee your family a stable food source no matter what happens next. Number 18. Potato flakes. In a collapsing food system, when fresh produce becomes impossible to store and potatoes rot quickly without refrigeration, potato flakes become an overlooked but incredibly powerful survival food. Because they are fully dehydrated, potato flakes can last 20 to 30 years when sealed properly, giving you instant access to a calorie-dense, comforting, and fast-preparing meal. In a world where fuel and water become limited, potato flakes shine. They rehydrate in minutes, require almost no cooking, and pair with virtually anything: canned meats, gravy mixes, spices, or even ghee. They thicken soups, stretch stews, and create filling meals that keep you energized without wasting fuel. Potatoes are some of the best survival carbs on Earth, but storing them fresh is nearly impossible long-term. With flakes, you get all the benefits without the spoilage. In an economic collapse where comfort foods become rare, the familiar taste of mashed potatoes can also boost morale. Stock several bags now, seal them airtight, and add an essential fast prep carb to your crisis pantry. Number 19. Freeze-dried meals and ingredients in a long-term economic collapse. When food variety disappears and stress drains your energy, freeze-dried meals become one of the smartest buy-it-once-and-forget-it survival tools you can store. Unlike canned goods or boxed mixes, freeze-dried foods remove almost 100% of moisture, allowing them to last 20 to 30 years without refrigeration and without losing much flavor and nutrition. Companies like Legacy, ReadyWise, and Augustin Farms offer complete meals. Fruits, vegetables, and proteins that only require hot water, a huge advantage when cooking fuel becomes limited. Yes, they're more expensive up front, but they buy you peace of mind, reliability, and convenience when everything else collapses. Meals are perfect for situations where stress is high, time is short, and you need something guaranteed safe and filling. They also stack easily, store compactly, and require almost zero rotation. In a real collapse, when grocery shelves go bare, having even one freeze-dried bucket means your family eats while others panic. Start with a 72-hour kit and expand from there. Number 20. Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers. Every long-term survival pantry depends on one critical system: proper storage, and nothing protects your food during an economic collapse better than Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers. Most foods don't last decades because of moisture, pests, and oxygen, but once sealed inside Mylar with the correct O absorber, you've created a nearly perfect barrier that blocks all three threats. Learning this skill is a turning point for any prepper. It means you can take cheap grocery items like rice, beans, flour, oats, pasta, and potato flakes and instantly turn them into 25 to 30-year emergency rations. The process is simple. Scoop food into the Mylar bag, add the oxygen absorber, heat seal the top, label the date, and store the bag in a cool, dark place. That's it. You don't need a bunker or expensive equipment, just consistency and urgency. In a collapsing economy, food security is everything. Get a starter pack of Mylar bags today and begin converting your pantry into a real, long-term survival system. When economies fall and supply chains break, hope isn't a plan, action is. Every food you've learned about today gives you a real advantage in a world where prices rise. Shelves empty and uncertainty becomes daily life. Start small. Start today, but start. Even one sealed bag of rice or oats is a step toward protecting your family. You don't need fear, you need preparation. Build your stockpile, stay alert, and take responsibility for your future. Because in the end, the only safety you can truly rely on is the safety you create right now.